In the early evening hours of 10 April 1942, a German submarine was silently stalking off the coast of Jacksonville Beach, Florida. It spotted a target, the SS Gulf America, and to the shock of onlookers on the beach, with one fatal shot, sent the crew, the ship, and its 90,000 barrels of furnace oil to the bottom. In these early years of World War II, the Germans were establishing that they could do something. They could operate thousands of miles away from home, complete their mission, and return with no problem. They did this over and over again. Jacksonville Beach was just one event. If you'd like to read the story, it's at War History Online about the German U-boat U-123 that shook Florida by attacking ships in the view of beachgoers. This was the psyops of its day. Now, just to be clear, to be able to sail a submarine all the way from Germany through the North Atlantic to the coast of North America, patrol, find a target, and then be able to return, took a great deal of planning, a lot of supplies, and training and technology. Now, some are probably wondering, cool story, Maki, what does this have to do with Antarctica? Some have questioned this idea of Base 211 in Antarctica, that it would have just been too far away. There's no way the Germans could have established a base down there. It would have been too difficult to survive. Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you the one key piece of evidence that proves not only could they have survived down there, they could have thrived and established a much larger base than what many people think exists. They would have had to figure out how to navigate through the ice. That's true. But Germany is actually the old Holy Roman Empire. So they may have had access to maps that we're going to show later on in this video, that might have given them a key, might have opened a door. And when they found what they were looking for, a way beneath the ice, a way to get off the surface, they would have been able to bring supplies. They would have been able to survive because of one thing that occurred back then that doesn't occur today. And I'm sure a lot of you are scratching your heads, thinking, Florida Maki, wouldn't they have needed some type of alien help? Well, they might have gotten it, but I don't think they needed it. Now, for those of you who are wondering, here's the tip of South America. Here is the Antarctic Peninsula. This is the area in question. New Swabia, Queen Maud Land. What was it that was going on during this era that doesn't go on now? Well, it's real simple. It's whale oil. And it was part of their 3 B's of prepping. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about our modern 3 B's of prepping, beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. Well, guess what? They had their own 3 B's of prepping and planning back then. What was it? Blubber, bone, and baleen. Baleen was the plastic of its day. Whalebone is highly prized even to this day, but of course, because of all of the environmental concerns, countries don't whale as much as they used to. But whale oil would have been the key, and whale products would have been the key to establishing a base down there. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking that's way too simplistic, Mucky. Many people don't realize how many products come from whales. Margarine, soap, meat, medicine. From the bone, they would make sewing kits, fertilizer. Now, do I have your attention? Fertilizer, that's right, plant food, candles, watch, clock, and all sorts of industrial lubricants were made from whale oil. This is really the key. You can go right through history, and there would not have been the Industrial Revolution in either Europe or North America without it. Now, what am I tying this to with the New Swabia mission? Background from New Swabia. The first German expedition to Antarctica was the Gauss expedition from 1901 to 1903. But it's the third one that's the key. A German whaling fleet, after these expeditions took place, was put to sea in 1937, and upon its successful return in early 1938, plans for a third German Antarctic expedition were drawn up. And this is the one where it is alleged that they established this base. This would have had to have been the key. They were the preppers of their day. They would have had everything they needed in Antarctica if they had regular access to whales and whale supplies, which the southern right whale is the most common whale in Antarctica. Everything they would have needed. Here's a chart of all of the things that are used in the modern world from whales in countries that still do whaling. Hormone medicine, liver oil. We had mentioned fertilizer, red meat, extracts, soup-based, boiled blubber, the bone, the fat, ambergris is in perfume, tennis rackets, gristle, ointments, pencils, epoxies, shoe creams, synthetic detergent, powdered gelatins, machine oils. It goes on and on and on. This would have been available to the Germans, and they had the ability to operate a long way from home. Now, I had mentioned maps, and I have mentioned this in other videos. I truly believe Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin, lifted that story because of the way it all ended. I believe he had a limited story and access to a map. And he told the story, but when the story was over, there was nobody that could follow it. That's why the final season was so disjointed and ended in a very odd way. The entire theme, though, of the story was that winter is coming. And this is key. This idea that Antarctica can't melt quickly and refreeze quickly, science is already starting to question that. After the recent collapse of the Conger ice shelf, literally overnight, plus this huge swing in temperatures, there are scientists now asking this question. Could our timing of all of this be completely wrong? 30 January 2022, Conger ice shelf. 21 March, completely gone. They're talking about these things happening in years, and they're happening in literally days. A few weeks. Entire ice shelves the size of the city of Los Angeles, to give you an idea how big Conger was. And those of you out there, you are correct. The Conger ice shelf melting doesn't raise sea levels, but you see this giant glacier right here? There's now nothing stopping it from, it's on the land, by the way, from now dumping into the sea. And it's melting. Some other people had questioned whether there could be rain in Antarctica when I told them about the temperatures. World Meteorological Organization, record high temperatures, rain, and the collapse of an ice shelf in East Antarctica have prompted concern about the role of notice they're no longer calling it man-made climate change. They're just calling it climate change. They're starting to understand how wrong they've been, and they're even starting to say it. Antarctica should not be taken for granted, scientists declare, amid extreme weather uptick. You see, they can't explain away the weather uptick on SUVs. And they're starting to use language that they've never used before. When you scroll down here, they start to talk about things that This event is rewriting record books and our expectations about what is possible. Is this simply a freakish, improbable event, or is it a sign of more to come? Right now, no one knows. You see, when I hear a scientist say, no one knows, we don't know, nobody knows, that's when I'll start listening. That's when I'll start listening to what they have to say. Because now they're acting like scientists. They're starting to see something. And it will open up a whole new set of possibilities. Now, just for reference, this tiny little dot right over here, this is Conger. Very small, but this gives you an idea of how big Antarctica is. This tiny little dot right here, this is the entire city of Los Angeles, size-wise. I don't think this map, what you're looking at here on the left, by the way, just to be very clear, this is the tip of South America. Pardon me, this is the tip of South America. This is the Antarctic Peninsula. As looked at when you flip the globe upside down, Google Earth Pro. This over here is allegedly a fictitious map created for the series from HBO, Game of Thrones. That was kind of a very medievalish type of story that was told over 6 or 7 seasons. I can't remember how many. But when you look at the layout of the map and you listen to the way that they talk and the themes, it shows something that they were telling. It was absolutely the most compelling series for the first 3 or 4 into season 5. Everybody was watching this, and then all of a sudden it just fell apart. What it shows me is that I really believe they were telling a real story. That happened, and then something occurred, and nobody was making this up as they went. Nobody was creating this. And when they ran out of the material, they ran out of show. And that's honestly what I believe, that there is a history out there being hidden from all of us. And there's proof. If you look into history and you look at it critically, imagine with only 1942 technology in one of these tiny little, and by modern standards they are tiny subs, transiting 4,500 miles away from home, completing a mission and then having to transit all the way back. Absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. But that was 80 years ago. But what made it possible? Their 3 B's of prepping. Bone, blubber, and baleen. Whale oil. To create a base down there, what would they need? They would need heat. They'd have it. They would need light. They would have it. They would need food. They would have it. They would need a way to maintain the equipment. They would have that. The ability to make tools. To make soap. Medicines. If they had access to the volcanic soil that we know exists in Antarctica, add in the fertilizer. And they could have planted the beans down there. We did a whole video talking about the fava beans and how they could have grown fava beans in low light. Candles. They would have had that. They would have had everything. And this video from recently from the Patriot Nurse talks about freezing beans to kill different things that might be in them. Parasites, fungus, whatever. Well, they would have had the ability to do that too in Antarctica very clearly. Copious amounts of fresh water. Everything you would have needed to survive, and not just survive, but thrive, would have been available to them. They had the ability to do it. They had the ability to create these bases. I truly believe this. It would have just taken a map. It would have just taken a little bit of information that perhaps the rest of the world didn't know. And once they found where they were going to set up, everything they would have needed would have been literally right in the water off the coast. whales as far as the eye can see. They would have had access to fishing. Some of the richest waters on the whole planet are around Antarctica. The list goes on and on and on of all of the things. They wouldn't have needed some long supply line from Germany. They could have made the base subglacial and self-sustaining. And that was the focus of today's video. They could have done this. This was 4,500 miles. Probably closer to 10,000 miles to get down here. But once again, even if they would have had to go someplace to resupply for something that maybe they didn't have, all they had to do is go to South America. And strangely enough, there is a peninsula off the coast of Argentina right here. It's called Point Valdez. And every so often, and they don't understand why, southern right whales beach here. They don't understand why they do it. But talk about an easy supply. And you can look that up. Point Valdez whale beachings. They just beach themselves for no real good reason. Science doesn't understand why they do this. Well, if this was something that was figured out by the Germans, this would just be a matter of going and harvesting. You just would take a boat up here and they'd be laying on the beach. And you could take whatever you needed, the bone, the blubber, the baleen, all of that. And right back to New Swabia. So I guess this is kind of a mix of survival, the 3 Bs, beans, bullets, band-aids, and Antarctica. It's kind of a strange thing, but it makes sense if you think about it. So, and by the way, this video from the Patriot Nurse recently, 250,000 views. It's a really good read. It really is. I didn't know. I had no idea. I'm not a big fan of beans anyway. But I suppose if I were going to have any in the house, I would freeze them. So anyway, I just want to leave that there. But God bless. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.